Gents, let's now focus on some of the other games coming up in the Premier League and Matchweek 32. Manchester United against Everton. For both teams, I do not think either team thought they'd be in this situation right now. United are pretty much, well, they need a win just to keep their faint top four hopes alive after slipping up again against Leicester City last weekend. And then Everton, obviously losing away at Burnley in midweek. They're only 1 point above the relegation zone, heading into what is a horrendous run-in for them. When you look at their fixtures, they may not win another game this season. Andy, what are you looking at in this game for United and Everton? And this is desperation time for the Toffees, right?
They're past desperation time. I would have liked to have seen a little bit of desperation from them against Burnley in that game, and we just didn't see it until earlier this week. That's why I kind of joked. I get why teams go with a Sam Allardyce, maybe not him specifically, but like that type of manager who is a little bit harder nosed, who's a little bit more of a grinder and somebody who's been through that before. And I watched what Everton put on display at Turf Moor on Wednesday, and it inspired nothing. It inspired no thought or hope that, oh, this is a team that they're close. They're about to pull themselves out of that. I just don't see it from this team. I don't see the, you can use words like commitment and belief and industry and work rate. And I don't see any of those things from this team. And so it's kind of an interesting matchup in that sense, because that's something the Manchester United have struggled with at times this season as well. And I think what have been one of the things that's why they're down where they are, I think in 7th right now heading into this game. And so it's got to favor Manchester United, I think, just because of the quality that they've got there. But if you want to go for the X factor, Everton, the team that really, really need the victory, and if they were able to pull this one off, then that would probably create the momentum they need to then pull themselves out of the relegation battle. But it's gonna be a really difficult game for Everton, because I think Frank Lampard doesn't know. I don't think Frank Lampard knows anything about his team. Who's the best 11? What's his got to get a result 11? What's the team that I put out there when we need goals? I don't think that he's been able to work anything out, because there's been so little progress from this team since he took over, and I think that's probably the most jarring thing for me.
Yeah, a lot of big problems at Everton before he turned up, but he certainly hasn't fixed any of them or improved, even got a new manager bounce. So they're in desperate times. I want to rattle off their remaining fixtures. They've got Man United this weekend, then they have Leicester, then they have Liverpool in the Merseyside derby, then they have Chelsea, then they have Leicester again, then they have Watford, which looks like a huge game in the relegation scrap down there. Then they have Brentford at home, then they have Crystal Palace at home, and then they finish with Arsenal away. I mean, I could see maybe 2 wins left for Everton there, and that would take them, my math's correct, 31 points. That's not going to be enough to stay up, because as we mentioned, Watford and Burnley, with Hodgson and Dyche in charge, respectively, this is not their first rodeo. They've been there, done that, got the T-shirt and these relegation scraps. And like you mentioned, Andy, these Everton players just don't seem to be able to find a way to grind out wins and just hold on to leads, which you need to do at this time of the season. For Man United, quickly, now that we think that Erik ten Hag's going to come in and pretty much their top 4 hopes are over, I think that timing of that is kind of interesting. They've almost written off finishing in the top 4 this season. And now maybe we'll start to see, with Ralph Rangnick in charge, and he's going to be there overseeing Ten Hag's appointment and first few years in charge at United, will we now start to see younger players coming in at Manchester United, given chances, or a slightly different formation or different style of play, preparing the team for when Ten Hag takes over this summer, and to try and get a bit of a head start and get some of those ideas coming in? I mean, I'm just throwing that out there, but that would be the smart thing to do, I think, for Manchester United, and kind of put results to one side, because pretty much I don't think they should even really worry about qualifying for the Europa League, because that would just throw another spanner in the works for the rebuild next season. So some other big games to focus on: Southampton against Chelsea. Nick, I know you focused specifically on Thomas Tuchel's comments about, preparing for that game away at St Mary's and not focusing on the Real Madrid UEFA Champions League quarterfinal second leg. Are we going to see a reaction here from this Chelsea side? Do you think they're going to play their best starting lineup at Saints to try and get some momentum after that defeat to Brentford at home? And then that, I wouldn't say embarrassment, but a reality check on where they're at against Real Madrid.
Well, yeah. And the reason I think you have to, or at least play a very strong starting lineup, is because if you were counting on, well, even if we continue to fall off in the league and Tottenham and Arsenal stay hot, we've still got the Champions League as a route back to the Champions League. So I think they need it. I mean, it's getting closer there. And I think you're going to see a big answer. I do think, and I'm not just doing this as lip service to my pal Joe here, I think Saints are better than people realize. So I don't think it's going to be easy, even if they do show up with their full-blooded 100% A game. But I would expect a big answer from Chelsea.
I would say one thing on Saints, I'm not as optimistic on them as you are for obvious reasons of being a long-suffering Southampton fan. But I think they do match up well against this Chelsea team for a couple of reasons. Just the high pressing. I think if Chelsea play three at the back, then Saints can kind of pick gaps and holes, and they've had some success. They drew twice against Chelsea home and away last season. Lost away at Stamford Bridge, but were tied 1-1 late in that game. Ward-Prowse got a red card, and they let in a couple of late goals in the league. Tied them at Stamford Bridge in the League Cup this season and lost on penalty kicks. So, yeah, and Ralph Hasenhüttl's old assistant at Leipzig is Zolt Low, the assistant for Thomas Tuchel at Chelsea. So there's a lot of crossover there. Saints have picked Tino Livramento from Chelsea. Obviously got Brojo on loan, who can't play this weekend. But I think someone like Shea Adams or Stuart Armstrong, I think, could find some gaps in this Chelsea defence. And like we saw against Madrid, the likes of Azpilicueta, Christensen, and even Rudiger seem to be struggling a little bit for confidence right now. And Edouard Mendy as well. So if Saints score early, then it'll be really interesting to see what this Chelsea side is made of. But I think we're going to see a reaction from Chelsea this weekend, because let's not beat around the bush. They aren't safe in the top four hunt right now, given their recent results. And the fact that Arsenal, aside from their collapse at Palace, have been really good in recent months. And Tottenham are back at it as well. So all of a sudden, if they have a bad result this weekend, then Tottenham and Arsenal will be right behind them. And from talking about Chelsea as just slight outside title favourites, we are now going to be talking about them. Can they hang on and cling on to a top four spot? So really, really high stakes for Thomas Tuchel's side this weekend. Okay, some other games to focus on the bottom end of the table. Watford against Leeds, Norwich against Burnley. We love a relegation scrap, don't we, Andy? Especially this time of the season. What have you got your eye on in those games? Because Hodgson against Jesse Marsh and obviously Dean Smith against Sean Dice. There's some good tactical battles and some guys, as we mentioned, who've been there and done it before in these kind of situations.
Yeah, Watford Leeds is obviously like the really, really intriguing one, because you've got a team that's got a chance of getting above the relegation line there. I question whether there's 10 points out there for Watford, Joe. And you said, if Everton can get to 31, that's not going to be enough. 31 might be enough this season, because 10 more points for Watford, I think you would need 8 more points at that point for Burnley as well. Like, that's kind of a big ask for both of those teams, just based on what they've done this season. But Leeds, I think what we've seen from them in the last couple of games is we've seen real progression, and everything that we've talked about with Manchester United and Everton and even these teams down at the bottom, and Watford having changed managers. I think 3 different managers this season that they have had, and Norwich changing managers as well. We've not seen real true progression from those teams when they brought in a new manager. And I think Jesse Marsh has done that at Leeds. And I think we're beginning to see a bunch of players who, as a lot of people said at the time, they kind of fit the way that he wants to play. And so I think they're picking that up a little bit. I think he's kind of meeting them in the middle as well with, okay, this is what you guys have been doing. This is the talent that we have here for this season. I'm going to get you guys over the finish line, keep us in the Premier League. We will address the rest of that in the summer. But I've been very encouraged by what I've seen from them the last couple of games. And so I think that momentum for Leeds probably continues. And then, then where do you find 10 points for Watford if you can't get at least a point, and if not 3 against a team like Leeds?
Well, you might play Roy Hodgson as the playmaker if you saw the video clip of him going around on social media, that lovely ball in training through to Shelford. But on a serious note, I'm rooting for chaos, because if Watford win against Leeds and if Norwich win against Burnley this weekend, then it's so tight at the bottom of the table, and it just kind of really closes up even more. And a lot more teams are going to be dragged into this relegation scrap late in the season. Some other games to focus on: Arsenal at home against Brighton, Tottenham go away to Villa. Big games in the top 4 battle. The 2 North London rivals there going head to head late in the season. Obviously, in the rearview mirror is that big game, North London derby late in the season, which is I think going to decide it all. Whoever gets in the Champions League spots. And Tottenham had the momentum right now, and Arsenal, a few big injuries for them. Let's see what happens. So, gents, that does us for Pro Soccer Talk this week. Thanks so much for joining me. Thanks everyone for watching. Remember, you can watch all the games and get all the information over at Pro Soccer Talk and NBCSports.com. Cannot wait. Massive weekend coming up in the Premier League. We'll see you soon. And thanks so much for joining me. Nearly lost my words there because I was so excited about what's coming up. Thanks, guys.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch highlights all season long, and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend at 7 a.m. Eastern. And for even more content, head over to Peacock, where we've got live games, original series, and a dedicated round-the-clock Premier League channel featuring studio shows, classic matches, and much more.